The Dan Bongino Show. Get ready to hear the truth about America with your host, Dan Bongino.
All right, welcome to the Dan Bongino Show. Producer Joe, how are you today?
Another fine day with Dan Bongino.
Yeah, we skipped over 666, so this is episode 667.
Yeah, right.
We are not going to put the mark of the beast on one of our shows, so you understand, folks, I'm sure. Hey, thanks for all the feedback on the Timeline show yesterday.
Thank you.
Yes, I know, I get it. I appreciate the positive, and some of them were critical, saying, you missed this, you missed that. I know, I get it. I appreciate the emails, folks, but it was an hour show, and I really desperately wanted to fit in the core of the story in 1 hour because I really wanted to just wrap that up. I mean, I'm sorry. I could have squeezed it over 2 shows, but maybe sometime in the future we'll do another recap. Thanks also for a record February.
Yes.
Listenership absolutely through the roof. We are closing in, I think, soon on being the #1 conservative podcast in the country based on growth. So thanks a lot.
And I want to thank all the Twitter followers that I got since you mentioned that. I'm a lousy tweeter. I really am.
Joe's just figuring Twitter out. He is at Joe Haas, HOZ1, the #1, at Joe Haas1.
Yeah,
so
thanks.
give him a follow. He got to 2,000 followers about months faster, years faster than I. It took me forever. So he's just been. So go make sure you follow him and torture him on Twitter like some people do to me. I'm joking, of course, but you feel free to. You can feel free to throw insults his way too, like some do to me. They do. I mean, they mess with us in good faith. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
the listeners like to laugh about some of the stuff on the show. All right, I got a lot to get to today. Let's see. Where do we start? There was a great article by Kurt Schlichter in Town Hall about this battle that's going on right now and how we need to fight back. Folks, listen, this is going to be a positive sounding show in the end. I promise. I think we are going to win this. I think we are winning. I've said this over and over and over again. I said it in the show the other day that the anger conservatives and liberty loving Americans feel at having their rights taken away, their rights to protect themselves, how they see fit, not how the government sees fit, that their anger at having their rights taken away will always overpower the joy liberals and statists get at taking those rights away. It will always motivate people to action. And when I say action, I'm not talking about leftist action like Antifa violence. That's not what we do. That's what they do. I'm talking about at the voting booth. I'm talking about activism, and it reminds me quickly of the Tea Party. You know, the Tea Party, the reason the Tea Party was so successful right around 2010 and that electoral season right there, the reason they were so successful, Joe, in contrast to movements like Black Lives Matter, Occupy Wall Street, the Bernie Sanders rebellion, the reason the Tea Party was successful is conservatives typically are results-oriented entrepreneurial types who are motivated by emotion but also understand the need for action. So when they felt like the Obama era had started and their rights to their money, their labor, their health care, their Second Amendment rights were under attack, this anger motivated them to action, and it motivated them to vote in what was one of the largest wipeouts of Democratic politicians in American history over the course of the Obama presidency. They lost record numbers of state legislators, state senators, Congress people at the federal level, congressmen and women, senators. They lost the White House later on. They lost everywhere at the city, state, local, federal level, aldermen. They were wiped out because conservatives are. Our thing, Joe, is sometimes we have a tough time acting collectively, but when we feel like our rights are under attack, at least individually, we know what to do, which is show up and vote and get it done.
Well, it was so effective that the president and the IRS punished him.
Exactly. And without that, who knows what would happen? Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge Romney fan, but Mitt Romney could have been president if the IRS hadn't gotten involved. Yeah. But the conservatives get it. And they don't act collectively as well as the Democrats do and the liberals because the liberals are statists. They believe in being led around like puppets. This is what they do. They act collectively. I mean, it was the whole essence of Marxism, the whole idea of the collective, of the communes, of communism itself. Yeah. They want to be led around. But being led around, while it leads to great rallies and people showing up, hell no, we won't go, whatever you want to say, they don't show up, folks. They don't vote in midterms. listen, it's not a knock on young kids. I love you. I was a young kid too. But a lot of these young millennial, whatever, liberal kids, who are in college now, who I think are, once they get their first paycheck, are going to figure out the futility of liberalism. They just don't vote. They show up at the rallies, they scream and yell, and they do their thing, but they just don't vote. Conservatives vote. I'm bringing this up because I'm going to contrast the two pieces, the Kurt Schlichter piece and the essence of it, just so you know what I'm talking about here. The essence of the Schlichter piece at Town Hall is that, hey, it's time. They're going to war with us here. And again, I don't mean this in the liberal way. I mean this in the conservative way, meaning the peaceful way. Liberals are the ones who seem to embrace violence. Antifa, that crowd, pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. What do we want? Dead cops. I've never heard that at a conservative rally, Joe. Have you? No. What do we want? No. Dead cops? I mean, this is insane, right?
Yeah.
But Schlichter's is the essence of the piece is it's time to fight back. It's time to fight back. Fight back against what? Folks, these people are at war with us. They're trying to put anybody out of business who associates at all with conservative organizations. They're trying to censor content. They're at war with the First Amendment, trying to take down YouTube accounts. I've got a bunch of stories on this today. They're at war with the Fourth Amendment, the spying on of that liberals still defend the spying on of the Trump team. After I went through that timeline show yesterday. It only has one explanation, Joe. They're tyrants. They don't care. None of it matters to them.
10-4.
It is clear as day after listening to yesterday's show that the Obama team spied on the Trump team. They don't care. It's like we're negotiating with them on the basis that we think they're good people. And I'm not talking about Democrats. I'm talking about the radical left. Right. That they're good people who really care about individual liberties. When you're negotiating based on that false premise, you're constantly perplexed as to how is it, Joe, they aren't upset about this Obamagate spying thing? Because they don't care. They don't care about the Fourth Amendment, the right to, to be free from unlawful search and seizure in your records and your conversations. Mm-hmm. They don't care. They're tyrants. They believe in the big state. They're statists. That's what they do. The state attacks political enemies. That's what they believe in. The state, they use the state and the power of the state to shut down free speech. The heckler's veto. Hey, if there's not going to be a permit issued for a conservative group on a college campus because it's dangerous if they come here and speak and the security costs will be too high. Well, why would they be too high? Well, because we attacked them and we burned them down. Wait. Let me get this straight. So what you're saying is because you attack and try to burn down buildings that conservative speakers speak in, that conservative speakers shouldn't be allowed to show up because the security costs are too high because you're threatening to beat them up and burn the building down. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And colleges acquiesce. Folks, these people are at war with us. I mean, they are at war, figuratively.
Yep.
That the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, they don't care. It is critical you accept that premise. I want to be crystal clear. I'm not talking about Democrats. I'm talking about the radical left. Unfortunately, the big, D Democrat party is being led around by these kooks on the radical left. And Schlichter's premise is we got to fight back now. I've told you about the futility and stupidity of boycotts. They are ridiculous. They are ridiculous. I can't say this enough. They are so stupid. Boycotts and not buying or not buying a company's products based on the perceived political views of the company based on their actions. We're not going to endorse this. We're going to endorse that is one of the dumbest things possible. I acknowledge that 1,000%. You want to buy a widget, Joseph? Buy the widget because it's a good widget.
Yeah.
But we're not making the rules anymore, folks. We need to accept this. The radical left is because they are at war with us. They need to silence you. They don't want you to be able to associate with the NRA. They don't want you to have a YouTube channel. They want to shut you up because they don't care. I wish radical leftists would be honest and just tell people, we don't give a damn about free speech. We're tyrants. At least we know what we're fighting against.
Yeah.
But it is time for us to now fight back. Now, I'll go into this in a second because I got a lot to get to here. But the reason I bring it up is there's a piece in The Atlantic debating whether to put it in the show notes because it's the premise of it is so dopey, by a Peter Beinart. And the premise of his piece, Joe, is, well, you guys conservatives are losing. We're winning. Because even though you're winning politically, conservatives, you have the White House starting to get some of the courts back. You have the House of Representatives. You have the Senate. You have the majority of governorships. That politically, it takes it takes the back seat to the fact that we are winning. I'm talking about liberals. Yeah. That liberals are winning the culture war. That on every issue, and in some respects, he's right. But he's mistaking the long term and the short term. Let me just read to you from his piece. This guy, Beinart, I think the premise of his piece is absurd, but it's worth diving into to hear what the other side's thinking. So just to be clear, I think we are winning long term because the attack on rights and the taking away of big R rights, whether it's the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, will always generate a more powerful and potent response to action than a joy at taking rights away from liberals will generate. It is just not as exciting for a politician to knock on a door and say, hey, support me. I'm going to take away your neighbor's AR-15, as it is for a politician to knock on a conservative door and say, hey, support me. I'm going to protect your right to defend yourself. Does that make sense, Joe? I think that's a good way to sum it up.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Yeah.
It will always generate more action on the side of the person who feels like their rights are under threat.
Yeah.
But Beinart in this Atlantic piece seems to take some joy in this, that they're beating us down on the cultural issues in the culture war. In other words, they're winning in Hollywood, they're winning in academia, and they're winning in the overall, cultural zeitgeist of the time. So here's a quote from the piece. He says, but shift your lens from public policy to culture. In other words, don't focus on politics for a minute where conservatives are winning. Focus on the culture. And he says, and the last 2 weeks look very different. More than 20 corporations, including United Airlines, Hertz, and MetLife, have cut ties with the NRA. Oh, wait, I'm going to stop here in a minute. I'm going to go, there's more to this, but I want to stop here to address that.
Cool.
So Beinart's premise here is that these corporations that have disconnected with the NRA have somehow won some culture war. Listen, Beinart, I don't know this guy, Peter. His first name's Peter. With all due respect, how? How was this a win for them? So I have arrows.
I see them.
Joe might all over the place here because I don't want to lose you at any point in this show. This is important. This is an important show I'm going to do today. How are you winning? The NFL tried this. Viewership's down. Ratings down. You've had people like big sponsors like Papa John's were on record complaining about how the NFL handled this. Mm-hmm. The NFL was ground zero for the culture wars. How did you win? You lost potentially an entire generation of viewers. I used to watch football in my house. I have not watched an NFL game in 2 years. You know how, Joe, this is going to be crazy rocket science here, man. Or rocket surgery, as I used to joke with people. Brain surgery and rocket surgery. How did I find football? I found football when I was a kid, and my mother and her husband at the time, not my dad, used to like football. And they would watch football, and I was like, wow, this is a pretty cool game.
Right.
And I found it and became addicted to it myself. That is never, ever going to happen with my kids. An NFL game is verboten in my house. It never, ever happens. It does not come on. You will never see it. My daughter even knows. Matter of fact, sometimes I watch 60 Minutes, even though it's a liberal-leaning show, just to see what the left is thinking. And the end of an NFL game would be on, and my daughter would be like, get it off, Dad, get it off. Do you understand? They lost an entire generation of viewers. And you think this is a win? Now, you may think it's a win. This goes to show you. And if I lose the audience at any point, please tell me.
Will do.
That is your job.
Yes,
will do, Dan. Will do. In his professional radio voice. Will do. Some guy complained about our shtick.
Did he?
I get like 100 emails who love me. And one guy said, I don't know. Listen, sorry, brother. This is the show. Okay. I love Joe. We got to keep it somewhat light. These are serious topics, but this is not a win. It's not a win. That why you would think this is a win is just astounding. By any visible metric, this was a catastrophic loss for the NFL. But it goes to show, to kind of summarize my point there, that the disconnect between Washington, D.C. and coastal elites